About 60 seconds out.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a countdown from 10. The last 3 seconds will be quiet. Is Josue ready for that? Okay, we're going to go in 10 seconds. The last 3 seconds will be quiet. Again, please keep your phones silent and noise to a minimum. And we will go in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Hi, folks. My name is Mike Dobbs. I'll be your moderator for this debate. And thank you for tuning in to Focus Springfield, and thank you very much to Western New England University for sponsoring this debate. In fact, for sponsoring the next 3 nights of debate. Tomorrow night, by the way, will be the at-large council candidates, and then Thursday night will be the mayoral candidates, all at 6:30 live. And by the way, if someone you know would like to see this broadcast, these will be up on YouTube pretty much immediately after they conclude. So tonight, we're going to be looking at the 2 ward races. The other ward councilors do not have races, but we have races in Ward 4 and Ward 6. And those candidates are with us this evening. Now, I'm just going to ask folks in the audience, I know that many of you are here to support a particular candidate. Just please hold your applause to the end. That way, the candidates can have the most amount of time to answer questions. So, let me introduce our media panel. We've got Sean Alford, who is the Student Senate President here at the university. Peyton North, who is the Executive Editor of Reminder Publishing. Jonah Snowden, who covers City Hall for the Republican. And Elizabeth Roman of New England Public Media, and she is the news director there. So, we're not going to have any opening statements or closing statements. We want to emphasize rather the positions and the answers to questions from the candidates. And the way this is going to work is that we're going to have each of our media representatives ask a question. They'll take about a minute to ask the question, and then each candidate will have a minute to answer the question. And we're going to go through 2 rounds of this in order to get the most that we can in an hour. Now, Steve Carey, the Executive Director of Focus Springfield, is our producer. He's the gentleman right over there. And the reason I bring Steve up is he's also the timekeeper. So, he's got a very loud deli counter bell here. There we go. Your order is ready, folks. And Steve will bop that. That's a technical term. He will bop that at 15 seconds. So the candidates will know you got to wrap it up 15 seconds. And then at the end of a minute, he will be ringing the bell several times until you submit to it. There we go. If you really don't shut up, then I guess I'll be forced to come and tackle you. So this evening, we are going to lead off with the folks from basically from the Forest Park neighborhood first. And let me introduce you to them. And this is just the order of farthest away from me to closest to me. Okay, so we have Humberto Caro right there. We have incumbent Victor Davila right there. And we have Shaniqua Fryer here. So Victor has 2 contestants, 2 challengers in this particular race. So I'm going to lead off with a question to all of you. And hopefully it's not going to be a question that's going to be one that the media reps are going to be answering. In your mind, what is the biggest challenge in your neighborhood? The single most pressing challenge. And we'll begin with you, and you have a minute for that.
Thank you. The biggest thing in my neighborhood, in my area for the ward that I have noticed and then I've been told as I'm knocking on doors, I'm introducing myself and speaking with the residents are, of course, blighted properties. And, you know, at the end of, essentially, blighted properties are a concern because they drive down property value, they drive down our neighborhood integrity. And living in the Forest Park Historic area, you know, we want to maintain the integrity of our historic district. And so one of the questions is how do we do that? Along with blighted properties comes, you know, absentee homeowners, so landlords that, you know, own the properties but do not reside in the area. And then you have residents that are not maintaining those properties. Sidewalks are also an issue for us as well.
Okay, thank you. Victor?
Thank you, Mike, for the question. I would say that the biggest concern that I hear is property taxes. How, because of increasing home values, the property taxes continue to rise. And it's something that has been on my mind, has been on the administration's mind as well. Another complaint a concern that I hear is trash and litter throughout the city. I'm happy to say that I created an advisory litter committee, and we made 13 recommendations to the mayor, and the mayor has happily accepted some of those. Among them is we gave money to ROCA. ROCA is going to be going out. They're going to be cleaning out litter and trash throughout the neighborhood. ROCA is a nonprofit that works with people coming back from jail, and so to give them a purpose of a job. Also, a curriculum for the elementary school children. We're going to be teaching them about litter, trash, and how it impacts the neighborhood and the environment, and teach them about neighborhood pride.
Thank you, Victor. Humberto?
For me, the most pressing issue right now is we need a community center in the area to deal with kids, the youth, bring some programs to them, the elderly community as well. I do agree with Victor that taxes are a worry in the area, but Victor has been in city council for the past 4 years, yet we still have raising property taxes. As well, he mentions litter, which is also an issue. Yet, I went back and looked at the debates for 2019, 2021, and yet he mentioned that was a pressing issue, and still to this day a pressing issue. So I would definitely work with all of those.
Okay, thank you, candidates. Now, we're going to start with Sean with his first question.
What strategies will you pursue to make housing more affordable for your constituents, including students and young professionals, considering the rising cost of living in our city?
Okay, so we'll take you first, Humberto.
I believe that the city could fund some of the abandoned or not in use properties that are, create some dorms for the youth. For the college kids, we could also work on a tax exemption for the historic area as well. That's a main, I mean, we are told that we have to maintain a certain facade on our properties, and yet we're not given any exemptions or any tax breaks on that.
Thank you. Victor?
Absolutely, thank you. One of the things that I think that we need to make sure is that first, to make sure that people are paid a fair wage for a fair day's work. Oftentimes, people, unfortunately, are not paid, or it's called wage theft, which has been a problem sometimes in the city and throughout the neighborhood. So I have to say that the city must continue to partner with local nonprofits to facilitate down payments and to promote home ownership in the city. I do have to say, however, that regarding litter, it took us a while to get here. It's been years of neglect. It's going to be a while before we get out of it. So you cannot pull all the blame on litter on me. I put a plan, the mayor accepted the plan, and we're moving forward with this plan.
Shanakwa?
So to answer the question about housing, so the deficit between someone's income and someone's, rent or mortgage is great. And so what I believe we could do is to have funding or programs that we are incentivizing or giving incentives for housing and for programs. So what that looks like, no one should be paying, mortgage prices for a 1 or 2 bedroom. I agree that we need to increase, jobs that, provide equitable employment, equitable, giving them an increase in, in their employment and figuring out if they can have employment mobility. So that way they can grow with their income and afford housing. We have numerous reservation buildings that are not being utilized. The city could utilize that for housing as well.
Thank you. Okay, Peyton North of the Reminder.
As several of you have mentioned, litter in the city has been a big topic, particularly in the Forest Park area. In May, the Advisory Litter Committee shared a report that included ways to address the issue, and Mr. Davila asked for help from state delegates on the upkeep of highways, on-ramps, and off-ramps. Mr. Davila, could you please share with us the status of this and if anything is being done? And I would also ask our other candidates how they would address this issue.
Thank you for the question, Peyton. It's a great question. Yes, indeed, we did follow up with the state and with the state delegation. The state delegation is fully supported this effort. We met with representatives of the Department of Transportation, and we found out that the main problem that they have is that they have short staff. They don't have enough people simply to cover the miles and miles of highway that we have. They had requested for a budget increase in the state budget, and they just have a problem hiring people. We have to have a follow-up with that, but there's action being taken on that aspect because I'm gonna get that highway clean one way or the other. Even if I have to go out myself with a broom, we're gonna get that clean.
Okay, so you can answer that question as well.
All right. So, Mr. Davila said that we don't have the bodies to, to get this job done, but that is an employment opportunity. So we could employ people to do this particular job, to get rid of the litter, offer incentives to get the job done. So it's not that, I agree, it's a tall task, it's a tall order. Springfield is not, small. And, we need the bodies in order to do that. We know that there are jobs out there, but what are we doing to attract people to employ them and to make sure that, we are not just litter, but in different areas. But that can be something that we can look at as far as, employing people to make sure that we're getting every inch in every trash pickup in every ward, not just Ward 6.
Thank you. Humberto?
I do agree with Chaniqua as well on that as an employment opportunity, but also we get the community involved. We need to get associations, we need to get clubs, the Boys and Girls Clubs, as show them responsibility as well, since they're small, educate them into what trash and litter does. Also, we should hold accountable the businesses, because those are the most that produce the litter. It's funny that Victor says that he's gonna go with the broom himself, yet it's been 4 years that he's been in the city council for Ward 6, and yet we still have the problem.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next question is from Jonah Snowden.
Good evening, candidates. My first question for you is, if elected, what do you plan to accomplish within your first 30 days of service?
And you would have the first answer.
I think he has to repeat it.
Oh, please repeat the question, Jonah?
Yes, if elected, what do you plan to accomplish within your first 30 days of service?
Within my first 30 days of service, I hope to accomplish building, partnerships and relationships with other members of the city council, but also other members within City Hall. I know you can't do this job without building those relationships and collaborating with people, but understanding, what other people's roles are, where everyone stands, what positions are open on commissions, and how I can be an asset and how I can be a voice, not only for my ward, but, for the city as well. And I can only do that if I am partnering with people and building positive and influential relationships within the City Hall.
Thank you. Victor?
Thank you, Mike. Within the first 30 days, I will continue to expand on the advisory committee's litter committee recommendations. The mayor has accepted 4 of those recommendations, and I'm going to continue that because that report is not going to stay on the shelf. I'm also going to continue implementing the fine system for illegal dumping and addressing illegal dumping here in the city, particularly in Forest Park, which is a problem. And I do have to say that my opponents keep saying, it's funny, Davila has been this, Davila has been doing that. All they're doing is pinpointing what they think, but none of them have been out there doing the job like I have. Mr. Caro, I mean it. If I have to go out there myself with a broom, I will. Will you?
Okay, Humberto?
On my first 30 days, the first thing that I will do is reach out to the whole community, to all associations, and create a liaison into what the needs of the community, and then bring it to the city hall, create partnerships in the city hall as well. And yes, if I would have to, I would go out there myself. Yes, but I'm not the city council at this time.
All right. Elizabeth Roman from New England Public Media.
So obviously, we're all very much aware of the recent spate of violence this summer, and the current administration has spent a lot of time with the community members trying to come up with alternative solutions to, to curb the violence. What I'd like to know from all three of you is, what have you heard in terms of feedback from the community when you've been out campaigning, and also what is a creative or proactive solution, one solution that you have that could curb the violence?
Shaniqua, do you need to repeat the question?
Please,
Okay.
So it's okay. So the question is, well, it's a multiple part question, but one, what have you heard from the community in terms of feedback regarding what's being done to curb the violence in the city, especially after this, very intense summer that we've had? And two, what is a proactive or creative solution that you would bring to the table, or in your case as a counselor have brought to the table to curb this violence?
Okay, I believe Shaniqua has got the first answer here.
What I've heard from the community is that they are, concerned about the violence in our city. We're the third largest city in the state of Massachusetts, but we have a higher crime rate than both Boston and Worcester. That's a concern. And so essentially they want to see some change, and what that looks like, for me, as far as like being proactive solution, whether we can start a gun buyback program. I saw last week that the mayor had a meeting where, giving like an all access pass to different programs within the city, as far as like the Boys and Girls Club and things like that. I think that's a great start. But also, what are we also doing about education with our youth? And it doesn't, and I said this before, it doesn't start just at high school. It starts, I think, at middle school, high school, but then also, reaching out to our young adults in their 20s and 30s, and really capturing, what their needs are. But employment is also an issue. You can't be productive if you are broke.
Thank you. Victor?
Thank you, Mike. A couple of things. First, I have supported every single request from the police department when they come in front of us, asking for more funding for special details and for special equipment that they have, which is critical to the fight in crime. I've also believe that we need to continue our approach of getting guns off our streets. We know we have an increase of guns here in the city. Also, we must advocate, for the love of God, for increase of treatment beds for people who are in drug treatment. We need more mental health beds. We need more paying attention to mental health and drugs. And I have to say, Mr. Caro, you don't have to be a city council to roll out your sleeve and go to work. Why haven't you been out there fighting later?
Okay, your turn, Humberto.
As I've been visiting and knocking on doors, especially in Bernie Lane, I have encountered that it's the lack of patrol. The people don't feel safe, and that goes all the way around, is the lack of patrol. For example, I've been living in the area that I have been lived for the past 9 years, and I have very seldom seen a patrol car going around. So I think more patrolling, that's very preventive as well. Educating kids throughout the stages, in the long term, it's a way to fight crime. So we got to address since little kids and young and youth, and give them some entertainment besides the streets.
Thank you. Okay, our next question is, we're going to go down the table, so it's back to Elizabeth Roman. Yep.
I feel like we just spoke to each other. So Councilor Davila alluded to this earlier in terms of experience. So two of you, the two candidates, Fryer and Caro, you've never served an elective office before. So the question for you is, what professional and life experiences would you bring to this position, and that would help you, fulfill the role of a counselor? And for Councilor Davila, obviously you're already in the position. So what knowledge have you gained? What experience have you gained in your time of service that would help you moving forward?
Okay, I believe Humberto, it's your turn to go first.
I've been working in customer service for over 30 years, administration and team building as well. I've been building teams since I was 18 years old, working in the restaurant business. I know how to manage. I know I have experience in budgeting, finance, so I know how to allocate resources. I know how to work with the money and where it should go.
Thank you.
Yes.
Victor, you're next.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for the question. What qualifications do I bring to the table? First of all, I'm a regular guy. I'm a regular guy like you. I'm a regular citizen here in City of Springfield. I don't profess to know everything, but I try hard. I always try hard for your best interest. I'm also a homeowner here in the City of Springfield. I'm also a paramedic here in the City of Springfield. I work closely with the police department. I work closely with the fire department. I've been out there in 911 calls. I've been on the thick of it, and I know exactly what's happening on the streets. I've also developed relationships, true relationships, by the way, which they're hard to develop, to foster, and to maintain. Relationships, not rubber stamp. I'm not a rubber stamp.
Shaniqua?
I'm an average, like, Mr. DeVille is saying, I'm a person. So people, the question is like, what are your qualifications? And the fact is I live here, I pay taxes here. Anybody can, apply to, be a city council person. It's about, what your passion is and what you want to do for your city. And so professionally, I am a social worker by day. I'm a mother and wife, 24/7, 365. And part of my desire to, run for city council is that, when I decided to move back here to Springfield, I wanted to raise my kids in the city that I grew up in, that I loved. And I want to get back to, what Springfield was. And, the pride that we had, or I had at that point. And so what that looks like for me is just being, being a voice for the people, being a voice to the needs of what, we want to see Springfield be. And everyone is saying we want it to be better. And we have the potential, and now it's time to tap into that potential, and that's what I desire to do.
Thanks very much. You're welcome. Our next question will be from Jonas Snowden.
Now, Huberto, I know that you mentioned wanting a community center in Forest Park, but I'd like to hear from all candidates. What services would you like included in this proposed community center, and would it be available to all residents of the city of Springfield or strictly for residents of Ward 6?
Okay, I believe Victor's turn is to go first at this point.
Sure. So I believe, I'm sorry, I believe the question was addressed to Carol, but can you repeat that again?
Yeah, it's for all. I just mentioned because he
He mentioned
it to me previously, but this proposed community center that Huberto previously mentioned, would it be available to all residents or residents of just for Ward 6? And what services would be provided in this proposed community
Right.
center?
Well, first of all, I think that if we had a community center in Forest Park, it would be great. Of course, it should be open to everybody in the city, and it would be a great idea. However, this is something that I have mentioned to the mayor before, and right now it's not in the works. But I do have to ask, John, which is a legitimate question. It's a good idea that Mr. Carr is proposing, but yet he's proposing decrease city revenues. So how are you going to pay for a center while at the same time decreasing city revenues? It's like saying, I'm going to send you to the package store, to the grocery store with $400 and expect you to come back home with $500 worth of grocery. It's a great idea. If I was the mayor, I would get it done. But how is he's going to pay for it is the great question.
Shaniqua?
Okay. Well, I mean, we pay for everything else, but we're not paying for what's important. And, I hear people say that, it costs money. It costs money. We know that, day by day, it costs money. You wake up in the morning, you can spend $100 just by waking up, opening your eyes. But we need to put our money, back into our community. We need to put our money back where the youth are. And how do we do that? So yes, I agree with the community center, with the all access pass, Forest Park doesn't have one. So could we create a all access center that is a one-stop shop, where we are providing services, like, Mr. DeVilla said, mental health services, sports services, after school programs, before school programs. We have all these different things in different pockets of the city, but why can't we create a one-stop shop and everyone is, all the needs are being met?
So Humberto?
Yes, I definitely, we need a community center in the area. And it will definitely be mostly for the residents of the Ward 6, because that's what I'm running. And every other area has a community center. The south end, the north end, they have their community center. Yet they're not in our area. How do I expect to pay for it? We just complain that we just have to allocate the revenues. It's not about increasing to taxes or increasing the money coming from the constituents. It's about allocating what we have. Have we seen how ridiculous the salaries are in City Hall? Have we evaluated how we're gonna allocate those, the money? That's all we need to do. We could also bring interns to actually bring the services in the community center. We have to come with new ideas to not right off the bat saying, no, it's cost too much. We can't do that. We have to get out there and get things done, make it happen.
Thank you. Okay, our next question is from Peyton North of the Reminder.
Each of you shared concerns regarding ARPA funding distribution in your interviews with Focus Springfield. If we could go back in time and look at who's receiving those funds, I would like to know where each of you would focus on putting that money.
And you've got the first answer.
Okay. So ARPA funds have been, distributed throughout, the city in different areas, different businesses. And so it's just a point of, accessing them. I believe we're on our 13th round of ARPA funding. The process wasn't perfect. No process is perfect. I think, it could have possibly been done a different way, but, that can be said about everything. I feel like those resources, should have been really tapped into the needs and the desires of the community. So one thing that, is a need that our residents talk about is the crime. So how could we have put money towards different programs to combat crime or public safety in different areas? So really targeting, what the need was at the time, especially during the pandemic, and how it would have left the city in a better position. But again, it's still ongoing, and hope to see the fruits of those labors.
Okay, Victor?
Thank you, Ms. Payton, for your question. Before I answer the question, I would like to say that, remind Mr. Cairo and that the city council doesn't allocate money. We approve the budget. It is the mayor who creates the budget and allocates. So at this table, the mayor has to be set to talk about a community center. Otherwise, it's just empty promises that are being made. And I never will make it an empty promise to you. Regarding the ARPA funds, it has been convoluted. In my mind, if I was the mayor, I would have done it differently. There's 16,000 people, 16,000 residents in the city of Springfield that apply for ARPA funds that have not gotten their help. They should have been first, not the people, the big businesses who got millions of dollars rather quickly. Money has to flow and has to be given to the people. I would have done that first, and then see if I was the mayor. I've always kept an eye on the budget.
Victor.
Thank you.
Umberto?
I think the ARPA funds just to benefit the big companies first and leaving the residents behind. I believe that Mr. Davila keeps saying that if the mayor was sitting here, I mean, probably he should run for mayor to abide by the promises that he made before. I'm just touching on that point.
Okay, and our final question for this group of candidates is from Sean Alvord.
What measures will you take to encourage local businesses to hire local students and offer internship opportunities, contributing to both local student success and growth of the local economy?
All right, and I believe Victor's got the first answer here.
Sure. I'm sorry. Would you restate about the students, how increase?
Yes, I'll repeat the question. What measures will you take to encourage local businesses to hire local students to promote internship opportunities to improve student success and the local economy?
Thank you. That's a great question. I do, as you're talking, I'm thinking of Germany. Germany has the lowest youth unemployment in the world. And it's for a reason, because they invest heavily in the city. The city must partner with private businesses to help them, whether that is with a TIF or some sort of tax incentive or some sort of incentive to help them bring students, interns, not only into businesses, but also into city government itself, because we have a little job openings in the city of Springfield. And so these are the leaders that we're talking about in the future, so that they can learn the skills that are needed and also make a decent wage. And I do have to say, Mr. Caro, I did make one promise, my good sir, and that is that I will always fight for the residents, and I am keeping that promise. For you to insinuate that I have not kept my promise, I've done my work, you're being disingenuous. I work hard for the people, very hard for the people, and I will continue to do so if the people allow me to do so.
Humberto?
I think we should create partnerships with college before the students are done, and bring them and incentivize those business to actually create employments. And Mr. Davila, I know you keep saying that if you were the mayor, well, then you should be running for mayor and not for city councilor. If things, all you need to do to get things done is to run for mayor, go right ahead and leave the space to me and Janika.
And now you have the final word.
I have a different perspective. How do we encourage local businesses? So, you know, the people that are running businesses, the majority of people that are running businesses are older, and so the dynamic of individuals is different. And so I believe that we need to open up on-the-job training, open up internships, partnerships with high schools as well as colleges to give people a taste, or give our young people a taste of what reality is like. You know, nowadays, you know, social media is the thing, and, you know, kids will run to that versus, you know, run into a 9-to-5, but not understanding the value and the longevity of having a job. Not saying that social media can't get you to, you know, where you need to be, but in hindsight, you know, the society and, you know, the economy does, you know, run off of 9-to-5s, or, you know, people that, you know, work day-to-day jobs. And so how do we partner with, you know, young people to understand the value and the longevity of having, you know, longstanding employment? And that starts early.
Thank you very much, all of you, for coming and answering some questions. I'd like to urge the viewers, if you want to know more about these candidates, all of them have got websites, and they're easy to find, number one. Number two, all of them were interviewed at the Sheriff's Picnic, and that video is on the Focus Springfield YouTube page. And also, all of them made candidate statements on Focus Springfield as well. So there is a wealth of additional information about their backgrounds and about their campaign stances and positions. And I really hope that voters take a little extra time to get to know all of the candidates so they can make a good decision at the polls on September 12th. That will be the preliminary election. So now we're going to bring up our candidate that we haven't talked to as yet from the Mason Square area. So what I'm going to ask these candidates to do is they can join the audience. All right, we were going to have Councilor Brown here as well. He told us that he could not make it tonight. Rather than cancel that part of this, well, it's not going to be a debate, it's going to be an interview, basically. I didn't think it was fair, Steve Carey didn't think it was fair to cancel out the opposing candidate. So this is Abdul Karim Kibodia. I got that. I'm terrible at names, folks. All your faces, I'll remember them forever, though. So we're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to get 8 questions from the staff over there. You're going to get a question from me. And I think an appropriate question that I'd like to ask is about communication. How important is it to you, if you were elected to the city council, to maintain real communication with the residents of the ward and with, therefore, your constituents? How would you communicate with them? How would you maintain communications?
Thank you for the question, Mike. In order to have an effective government, we need to make sure that we're not only serving the people, but that we're connecting with them and teaching them not only how they could access city services, but also how they can be part of our community. I think right now, one of the biggest issues that I've seen in Ward 4 is that people don't know how to get involved. Right now we are at a crossroads in the city in terms of how we want to move forward, and people actively want to be part of that. As city councilor, I would work to make sure not only that I was connecting with people every day, that I was open to connecting with people every day for both the easy conversations and the hard conversations, But I would also make sure that our city council was more accessible, creating a layman's term sheet for new proposals, new ordinances, and making sure that people had access to that information, making sure that we update our city website, as well as creating a more cohesive 311 system.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to go back to our media panel. And Sean, you're going to have the first question.
What are your plans to enhance safety in your ward, specifically around college campuses and student-populated areas?
Yeah, so I live right around the corner from AIC. There, unfortunately, has been a lot of issues, not only this year in terms of the violence that's happening in our community, but also in terms of public safety and pedestrian safety. We did lose a member of our faculty over at AIC not too long ago. I was happy to see the improvements that were made to make sure that pedestrians were safer on our streets. In terms of making sure that students, faculty, and our community as a whole is safer, we need more comprehensive solutions in order to address the violence that's happening in our city, to address the lack of economic opportunity that's happening in our city, and to make sure that people know that it really starts with community and with becoming more unified as a community and working towards resolving those issues. The police are not the first source or the first responders in terms of dealing with these issues. It really starts with us, beginning and end of the day.
Thank you. Okay, Peyton North of the reminder.
For years, there has been discussion about the former isolation hospital on State Street, and in 2022, a statewide organization, Preserve Massachusetts, deemed the building as one of the most endangered historic properties in Massachusetts. What would you like to see happen with that property?
Springfield has a rich history. The isolation hospital is one of the oldest hospitals in our city and in our state as well. In terms of preserving, protecting, I want to make sure that we are looking at new ways to incorporate, whether that's housing, economic opportunity, making sure that we are rezoning that so we can attract more developers that would be able to come up with new proposals. I haven't heard as many proposals as I would like to hear from developers, both locally and throughout our state and our country, about how they would like to see that redeveloped. I haven't heard enough from the community about how we would like to see that redeveloped.
Thank you. Jonah Snowden of the Republican.
What experience has working with Senator Elizabeth Warren and U.S. Congressman Richard Neal given you? And how do you plan to apply it in your role as city councilor if elected?
So I have experience working, I'm the only candidate in this race that has experience working at every single level of government, starting in City Hall, as well as Beacon Hill and Capitol Hill. That background has given me a deep understanding of how our system works and how policy and legislation can be used as a tool for empowerment, for oppression, or just maintaining the status quo. Right now, as we can see here by the lack of representation that we have in our community, quite frankly, we have an empty chair sitting here. The first thing is showing up, making sure that we are listening to the needs of our community and making sure that we're being responsive to those needs. During my time with all of those offices, the biggest thing that I learned was public service. The congressman, he has a saying about when people show up to the office, it's not when it's not their first option, it's not their second. More often than not, it's their last option. When they've tried everything else and they've tried everybody else and their hope is almost lost, being that public servant to be able to bring that, address those needs and concerns, that's what I bring to the table.
Okay, please, no applause. Wait till the end. Okay, Elizabeth Roman of New England Public Media.
So recently, Mason Square was taken over by Springfield Fashion Week, where they took some vacant properties and, revitalized them and highlighted some local artists and designers. Talk a little bit about the work you did with TD Bank and keeping it open, and also what you would like to see done and what your efforts would be to keep businesses in the area and keep it vibrant.
Yeah, first and foremost, shout out to Springfield Fashion Week. They put on an amazing presentation throughout the city, bringing designers, photographers, models, and local artists to the table. I think that is really representation of what it looks like to embrace this next era of change, making sure that we are encouraging our small Black and brown businesses to buy brick and mortar real estate, making sure that they have the connections not only within the city, but within each other, fostering that community in order to make sure that we are able to kind of work together to create the investments that we need. Too many people are focused on the negatives when there's so many positive things happening. I had never seen anything like that in Mason Square. And as city councilor, I would like to make sure that we are creating more opportunities for initiatives like that.
Thank you. Okay, Elizabeth, you have the next question.
So I think I'll bring it back to the question I asked the previous counselors. The summer of violence has been pretty extreme. And I know police officers have talked about how, you know, maybe it's not representative of the city as a whole. It's just something that's kind of been going on. It's almost like a freakish time. But I mean, as a city resident, talk about how you would work with community relations. And you mentioned it a little bit, to get the police and the community together to try and make a difference and try and change the perception of the city and particularly of the neighborhoods.
As a resident living in Springfield, the increase in violence is not only concerning, but it's also scary. We live in this community, and my fiance and I, we've heard the shots at night, and we've seen the violence directly affecting our community. I want to make sure that we are working to bring all stakeholders to the table to address these issues in terms of bringing common sense gun reform to the table. I spoke last month with AG Campbell regarding the impact of ghost guns in our community, making sure that we're connecting community members before these crimes and issues are happening, making sure that we are able to address both the economic opportunity, the education opportunity, and the lack of access to all opportunity within our city, making sure that we're able to not only give thoughts and prayers, but that we are actually creating comprehensive evidence-based solutions to these problems.
Thank you. Jonah Snowden of the Republican, it's your turn.
Sure. So I'll ask the same question I asked previous candidates. If elected, what are some of your top priorities that you hope to accomplish within your first 30 days of service?
In terms of the first 30 days of service as city councilor, I would first want to make sure that I'm connecting with partners and stakeholders, both in the city council as well as in the mayoral office and city departments. I want to make sure that we're auditing our procurement processes for making sure that we're bringing more opportunities for Black and brown contractors, immigrant-based, immigrant-owned businesses, as well as making sure that we are creating these opportunities for people to partner with the city. A lot of these business owners are not looking for handouts. They're looking for opportunities to partner, to grow their businesses, and to create new opportunities for themselves, their families, and their employees.
Thanks very much. And Peyton North of the Reminder.
In your candidate profile with Focus Springfield, you shared you felt Ward 4 has not received the investment, resources, or funding necessary for the ward to resolve issues it has to build out. You mentioned you were disappointed during the rollout of ARPA funding that communities like Ward 4, who were most impacted by the pandemic, did not receive transformative change necessary to build back better. If we could go back and redistribute those funds, where would you focus on placing that money to build the community back better?
First and foremost, we need a grocery store in Mason Square. We need a full-service grocery store with high-quality food. We need to make sure that we are improving our transportation system, both our bus transportation as well as encouraging and advocating for West-East Rail. Those are major economic drivers of change in our community, creating more access points throughout New England and throughout the Eastern Seaboard. Next, I want to make sure that we are addressing the economic needs of our community. I am happy that many Black and brown businesses were able to receive funds from the ARPA dollars, but that isn't transformative change. That isn't what we need in order to sustain us going forward. When we think about these issues and we think about the ARPA dollars, those dollars were meant to build back better, not only over the next 1 or 2 years, but over the next 5, 10, 20, and 50 years for our city. And that's what I want to make sure that we're focusing on. What does this city look like going forward?
And you have the last question, Sean.
How do you feel about the public transportation options currently available in our city? Can all of our residents affordably get where they need to go within the city? If not, what will you do to improve transportation in our city?
As I had noted earlier, making sure that we are making improvements to our bus transportation, electrifying our bus system, making sure that we are encouraging and advocating for West-East Rail, making sure that we are creating opportunities for people, especially our seniors, to access transportation to our senior centers, as well as making sure that, as the question was asked earlier regarding the Mason Square TD Bank issue, that the reason why we fought so hard to keep that open is because there was no other local banking option for people in my community. Making sure that people are able to access city services at an affordable rate, making sure that we're able to get from point A to point B and having more walkable and bikeable cities. Those are all high priorities on my agenda.
All right. I want to thank very much our media panel, who took the time out of their busy days, and I know every one of them was busy, to come and ask questions of these candidates. I want to thank Western New England College, excuse me. I used to work here, so college is in my head. Western New England University, I want to thank them for sponsoring these debates, because the whole purpose of these debates here on Focus Springfield is to give information from the lips of the candidates to you so you can evaluate them and you can decide who you would like to support. So again, thank you very much. You can give him a round of applause too.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Steve. Thank you to the panel as well for this opportunity. It was fun.
So tomorrow night, same time, same location, except we're going to have about 20 candidates for the at-large race here. And again, there's going to be a somewhat different media panel where it's changing things up. Poor Sean gets to sit through all of this stuff as a representative of the university. But I hope that you tune in for the at-large, and I hope that you tune in again on Thursday at 6:30 when the mayoral candidates are here. So on behalf of Focus Springfield, thank you very much for viewing. Our audience, thank you for coming out physically and supporting this effort. It's all greatly appreciated. Good night.